Mr. Alam did not speak to any of the family. Sidrah was the sole person dealing with everything. Miss Alam was really sick at the time, and they were in Dallas in another hospital. So Sidrah basically told Mr. Alam, don't worry about anything. I'll take care of it. You worry about Mom. Her husband will take care of the businesses, and she'll handle all of this. So that was what was decided in between all three of those.
Do you think that any of that was encouraged by the Gray State team?
So I believe when the whole documentary thing happened, I think, yes, I do believe, I think they took advantage of Sidrah, her being naive and, wanting to see the good in everyone, which, I mean, even from certain things that had happened and while I was there, I kept telling her, just don't trust everybody. And, it stuck out to me, especially with Mason Hendricks. He really didn't want Mr. Alam on the documentary. He kept pushing for just Sidrah. He even told her not to tell Mr. Alam about this documentary. He put her in a position where she was very, she didn't know what to do. But yeah, I definitely think, they kind of liked that they were just dealing with Sidrah and not Mr. Alam. Because in all reality, if Mr. Alam had been dealing with all this would have been a whole nother thing. It wouldn't have transpired to all of this. It wouldn't have gotten to this, especially with the documentary.
Have you seen the documentary?
Yes, I have. I have
seen
seen
do you have any views you want to share?
And, which one? The previous cut or the one that's out there on Netflix?
The previous cut.
Well, what could I say about that? They picked and choose what they wanted to put in there, obviously. They did a lot of editing. They just took out some words that Sidrah had said and Mr. Alam had said. But the things that should have been there weren't on there that they really wanted on there.
When you're comparing the two versions, is the narrative a lot different? The one thing that stuck out to me on the second one, the official one, they kind of try to make Komel look crazy, in all honesty, by showing her clip. And you know what the crazy part is? Mr. Alam had never seen that footage till the day it got released, so that was the shitty part in all really?
This. Yeah. We had never seen the footage, and that is why he was so upset that that's his daughter, out there looking crazy, and that's not something they even asked for permission. So, Erik Nelson definitely had an agenda on what he wanted to show. So, after the rough cut, that was sent to Mr. Alam, Mr. Alam basically said he wasn't going to sign any paperwork till he saw what the direction was going to be. And that's something Nelson had said, that, everybody's story was going to be told, and he didn't have an agenda. Just whatever the interviews were, he was just going to present them how they were. So I'm glad Mr. Alam was pretty smart, and, he wanted to see the rough cut before he signed it. I mean, they were pushing Sidrah to sign her part, but Mr. Alam made sure and was firm that Sidrah didn't do that. Once he got the cut, he was not happy with it. He told him, what's the moral of this movie? What are you trying to get at? What's the point of it if there's no lesson? Because that was what was told to the alarm side. You know, there was going to be a lesson in this. You know, there was going to be something for others so they can be enlightened. You know, PTSD or, you know, mental abuse, or for, like, you know, with women, just something. You know, there should have been something. Like, in all honesty, there was nothing about that documentary. I don't see why the Crowley side agreed to it. I mean, it shows their son as a crazy lunatic. If it was the roles were reversed, I would have never wanted that out for my son, you know. But that's just me.
Yeah. But if they could show that it wasn't just him and it was her too, then it goes back
and
to the pack
theory. That's kind of what I felt. Like, there was no reason for them to put that footage in of Komel, you know.
Agreed.
I feel like the reason why they put that in is to put that pack theory in people's head that, you know, maybe she was going crazy. You know, maybe they decided it together. So I just didn't see the point of that. And, you know, another weird footage was Ronnie in the basement, you know, and that made no sense. And the other one, I'm glad you brought that up, the footage of Ronnie talking about the bloody man. They make that seem so bad, and it's actually really funny. You know, it's, I don't know if you've seen in the certain movie productions, there's this little red man that shows up before a movie starts.
Can you name one? Because I've been looking for this for months, maybe years now.
I will get back to you on that.
I can't find it.
I will get back. I will get back to you on that. Cool. Yeah, but it's this little red man that they always scared her with. You know, he was a little red man, and, you know, that footage was actually recorded by.
Could be a touchstone thing. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, it could be. I think so. I'll look into it. I'll ask Sidrah. She probably knows. And I'll let you know. But yeah, it wasn't anything. I mean, yeah, I know as the third person looking in, it sounds so creepy for a little kid to say that, but she was a very, you know, she had a very broad imagination. You know, she talked like that, and they just turned it around and made it sound so awful for her. Like, you know.
No, she was very bright. That's the way. Yeah. Like, she was bright. She could understand all the. Yes.
She was extremely bright. You know, when I met her, you know, she it didn't seem like I was talking to a 5-year-old. You know, she was very intelligent for her age, and I think that was part of her autism. I know that they're very bright, and, you know, so I think that has to do with that. But yeah, just going back to the documentary, you know, certain things they showed had no reason to be on there, and that were shown were completely out of context. So that was what Mr. Alam didn't like.
Yeah.
And, well, you know, the sad part is, you know, the Alams this had already been decided, and, you know, there were, like, you know, they got their interviews towards the end. It was around July. Sidrah was like 9 months pregnant when they shot all that. So apparently they weren't even going to be on the interviews, and not Danny Mason, I always get them confused, Mason Hendricks convinced Nelson to put them on there. So yeah, it was a pretty shitty part on their end, and I think Crowley's are to blame too, because, you know, they had no contact with the Alams. Sidrah was always the one trying to contact them for anything, and, you know, I get, you know, they feel guilty or, you know, with what happened, but, you know, communication was very, very poor, and it was all through, like, Mason and, you know, Sean, and they shouldn't have been even in the middle of this, in my opinion. You know, it should have been the families talking, and that just wasn't it. Dan Senior never wanted to talk, you know, it would be through email or a text message, and a day late or a week late conversation. So yeah, they're a hard family to communicate with, and that's something even his friends say. That's just how they are. That they're a little weird, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, right. Which is different than saying that because they weren't talking to David or because they didn't talk with him every day or whatever.
Yeah, because that's something Mr. Alam brought up. He said, I understand. From our side, we're far away. We're dealing with Nyla's sickness. So what was y'all's excuse for not, being in each other's lives? Like, he's like, if that was me and my daughter isn't talking to me for this long, and she lives literally 10 minutes away from me, I'll pop up at her house, So, I don't know. Their family was a little odd, but, I'm not going to say too much on that. I don't know them that well, so.
Yeah, sure. Can we go back to a little bit about when we're talking about Rainey in the basement? And can you give us the correct pronunciation of what the daughter's name? Yeah. Can you say the name?
Her name is Rania.
Okay, thank you. Rania. Okay, so can you give us a little because you've watched that documentary, you've seen both versions of it. The version that certain people have, kind of teased us with or tempted us with or whatever, but in that version, what is happening with Rania in the basement? Is there any...
Honestly, there was no point of them putting that on there. It was just a little tantrum. She was in timeout, and that was all there was to it. And it was funny how she was acting. And David loved, the thing with David, he documented everything. This may be TMI, but he even recorded her first poop, But that was just him, He loved recording things like in the moment. You'll see a lot of their pictures. They're not posed pictures. They're in the moment pictures. That's what he loved. So it was just something he documented, and they chose to use that, I guess.
Yeah, that seemed kind of strange. Out of all of the stuff that they had,
yeah,
that seemed kind of strange that they would use.
They were just really trying to, prove how David was, and make him look uglier, in my opinion.
Yeah, but they put that, like, it's not just that they showed it in there, it's where they showed it. They showed that in the cult section. So we're here talking about this cult, this and that, and like, I don't know, like a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, you just don't get a good feeling after you watch that.
No, because it's just more like fear. It's like, well, it raises so many different things, whereas a documentary is supposed to give you closure. It's supposed to help us understand what really happened here so that we can move on. This did not. This is not a documentary. So,
absolutely not. I completely agree with you, and that was part of the reason why Mr. Alam and Nelson were going back and forth. He said he was going to add some stuff in the end. He was going to, apparently he added the dog at the end. Apparently that was supposed to be a lesson, which I don't see how. It's just crazy to me. Honestly, I don't know how David's family agreed to this. I wish they would have taken back their interviews too, and this wouldn't have happened. But
now, is it possible that they signed the same contract that I signed, and that then they saw it later and they were like, wait a minute, like, what the heck is going on here?
When I went with Sidrah to the hotel where they were gonna shoot their interviews, they wanted them to sign it there, and Mr. Alam was not okay with that. He's like, no, I will not sign any paperwork till I see what your agenda is. So, yeah, that could very well have been what had happened. But I also do know Sidrah had told me that Dan Sr. had talked to her a little bit about this, and he didn't want to go through with this. Apparently Nelson had reached out to him when all of this had happened, right away, and he shut him down. But I think the Gray State family had a lot to do with why they went through with this. That's just my personal opinion from what I saw.
I totally agree. Mm-hmm.
They pushed it. Honestly, Dan Sr., he's a very sweet man from what I have heard, him talk, the way he's talked to Sidrah. He's a sweet man. Think he got manipulated into doing this. His friends basically, that's what he told Sidrah was, they said this would be a tribute to his his son, which I don't see how the heck this is a tribute. But, like you said, maybe he signed it off thinking that would have been a tribute. And afterwards it wasn't what it was supposed to be.
Yeah, it was kind of the same thing that they told me. Oh, we just want to get to the truth. We think you guys are great. You guys are on to it. We just want to get your guys' side. And I'm sure, and now what I'm learning is they told everybody else the same thing. We just want to get your view.
Yeah.
That's it.
Absolutely.
But make sure you sign this document. Like the only reason they wanted me to sign that document was so that I could not sue anybody else, so that I cannot sue it.
Absolutely.
It was just like, wait a minute, like, so I even tweaked it, and they didn't really notice it, but it was just like I don't really care because I don't have anything, But it shows that they were not trying to make a documentary. They had ulterior motives, from what I'm saying.
Absolutely. They told everybody, different stories, and I really wish, we everybody got together before all of this.
But they were, but they were keeping us separate. They were trying to make both families think that people that were asking questions were the enemy.
Yeah.
And
it just shows their motives. When Mr. Alam at the end, he told him, there's no way he was gonna sign off on this documentary, and Nelson said he respected his wishes. He would take off both Sidrah and Mr. Alam's piece on that, and that was the end of it. And he said he was going to let him know when this aired. He was going to have him fly out to New York and all this stuff. But, they honestly, it's pretty crazy, but they didn't even know when it was going to get released, the documentary. I actually told Sidrah because I would regularly check up on y'all's page, and that's where I saw it at. And I told her, I was like, hey, did you know that the documentary is getting released? And she had no idea. And then she told Mr. Alam, and Mr. Alam actually flew out to New York with his lawyer. And he was present at the release, but they had no idea. They were undercover.
Right, which they shouldn't have had to be if all of this was just going to lead us to the truth, right? There was no need for any of that.
Supposedly they went through tons of stuff and went through all of his videos, and I think that's something that Dan Sr. had told Sidrah about. That was part of the reason why he wanted to go through with it, because he wanted someone to come in and dig information, because that's something he has always had trouble with. He always told Sidrah, he can't find the why, so I guess that's part of the reason why he went through with it. Maybe someone would be able to find the why.
Do you know who interviewed them?
So I don't know names exactly, but Nelson was there. I was there. I was sitting outside when they were getting interviewed. Nelson was there. Mason was there. Chris Peck was there. And there were two other guys that were holding the camera, and there was a skinny guy that was holding the microphone, I believe. Yeah, they wanted to interview both Sidrah and Mr. Alam separately, but Mr. Alam didn't want that. He said that if they wanted an interview, it'd have to be together, so they both sat down together. So on the raw footage, they basically, if they wanted to show Sidrah separately, they just zoomed it in all the way on her to make it seem like she was separate.
So how much footage is there of them, of the alarms?
They try to get Komel's side of the view on who she was as a person. Sidrah talks about that. They talk about, when they got married. Mr. Alam was opposed that. They talk a lot about, most of it was for Sidrah's side, when she went up there in October. So they touched up on that. Her interaction with David. And, just basically he asked stories of Komel and if we knew anything about her paranormal activities and if they had any occurrences. And Sidrah had mentioned one that she had when she went up there in Minnesota when they were living in their apartment. So she brushed up on that part. So that was on the documentary as well. And they ended it showing that she was pregnant and, something good was going to come, which was so stupid, but sorry, I just really hate
weird.
The documentary.
No, I do too. I've only seen it once. And it was the only time that I watched it live. So I do not want to see it. But wait, so,
yeah, it's a bunch of vomit. Yeah, they actually didn't have the dog part then. They ended it with showing Sidrah's stomach. And
are you
saying,
serious?
okay. Yeah, well, they showed it because, Sidrah's due date was actually Rania's birthday. So they thought that was so intriguing, so they wanted to end it there by saying, oh, well, this baby's going to come on Rania's birthday kind of thing,
Oh. Okay, so they're pulling at our heartstrings. Okay.
Yeah, they even said that they were going to do it that way because it was just crazy to me. Like, it was just so stupid. Yeah. I'm glad they pulled it out because, gosh.
That seems weird. Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah. They wanted some kind of emotional thing to end with. That's why they chose the dog. So everybody, he even said it. When Mr. Alam said, take our stuff out, he said, okay, well, I'll have to take some stuff out. We'll go ahead and put the dog on there, so we could have that, ending to it. And, everybody can feel happy, giddy, I guess. I don't know how you could feel that way, but